Welcome to the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners post-recess opportunities to speak about the problems, needs, and interests in our fine community. We're going to address those in just a few moments. No, all right, I'll turn the meeting over to our county manager, Dudley Watts.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what we have for the briefing side of the agenda today is introducing the items for the consideration for that October 21st meeting. We have a fairly long agenda, but it does have a number of fairly quick items to run through, so we should be okay. A couple of discussion items, and then a closed session motion. We've got quite a few items for closed session, so it will be a bit of a stretch this afternoon. So let me take care of one of the discussion items, really just informational, because a couple of board members had actually sent me the emails and just notifications that there had been a call through the state for FEMA to provide ambulances to systems that were stretched in resources, and so Commissioner Martin had actually sent that to me. It came out from the state very, very quickly. Darren Ziegler, our emergency services director, sent a very professional but frustrated email to DHHS, to the main, Tom Mitchell, the main guy there, really saying that those resources are needed here. And I am pleased. I think, Darren, where are you? He's back in the back. But Darren let me know that we do anticipate to get some resources on Sunday. Sunday or Monday, and we're going to have them for 10 or 12 days, and then they're going to because they're in a process of sort of reevaluating those resources, but puts 2 or 3 ambulances here, 3 ambulances here for that period.
Oh,
that
great.
That's the unit that they're staffed, presumably with National Guard?
They're paramedics, they're just through a contract.
Okay, so contract paramedics through a service through FEMA, and so I appreciate
wonderful.
board members letting me know about it. Darren actually, I found out from y'all and Darren really about it at the same time, and Darren had already sent a letter to the state about it. So anyway,
That's-
How long did they get the state?
10, 12 days.
14, they were reevaluating. I noticed Guilford, the first go around, they did 10. Then Guilford, they reduced theirs by 1. They have 2 more units for another 14 days. So it's good to get it beyond that. I would say how much.
So the first period's 14 days, and then it's evaluated on kind of a rolling cycle.
Good night, that's good.
Okay.
Anyway, it's good
Thank you.
news, because our call volume, we were hoping unit hour utilization would go down a bit in September, and it went down just a hair, but we're still in the high 70s, almost 80% unit hour utilization, and it's running our folks ragged. And so we, not to mention, we're also in that period where there's lots of festivals and things like that we have to make decisions about staffing those in addition to the regular response. So
That's good news.
yeah, it is good. So that was the main thing. Darren, thank you. I know you got things to do to get back to. We appreciate that. So I'll go ahead and dive into the items for consideration for the October 21st meeting. Chris Murphy's coming up. He's got 2 rezoning, 2 planning items. Let's be very efficient, Chris.
I'll do my best.
All right.
And hopefully these will be simpler than the item we considered at your regular meeting earlier. We do have a request, F-1605 of Randall Scott Dunston. It's to rezone 16.9 acres on the southeast side of Stanleyville Road, across from Montlou Drive, from AG to RS20S for residential single family and planned residential development. This is the county's growth management area map, and you'll see this area is located in GMA 5, just to the east, about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from Rural Hall. Location map shown, subject property in yellow. You'll see there along Stanleyville Drive, you do see some AG zoning, but the property is adjacent to RS20 and across the street from RS30. So the zoning pattern that they are requesting is somewhat similar to the surrounding property. Same property highlighted in yellow on the aerial photography. The subject property is on the left here. This is looking east on Stanleyville Drive. This is looking at the site across from the entrance to Montlou Drive. This is looking west on Stanleyville Drive. The site is to the right. Actually, I think that's should say looking to the west, northwest. Excuse me, east, northeast. And this is looking at the western portion of the site, again, also across from Montlou Drive. The area plan recommends this area for single-family residential, so therefore the request is consistent with the area plan. Here is the plan shown. It does provide, it is a standard subdivision. They asked for a PRD just in case they wanted to, once it got approved, they wanted to change their layout and do an open space design, but this is just a straight subdivision, and they are proposing stubs to the south and to the east. The request would permit large lot development in a variety of homeownership opportunities in GMA 5. The request proposes a density of less than 2 units per acre, including internal sidewalks and open space. Legacy 2030 recommends making new suburban neighborhoods pedestrian and bike friendly by developing interconnected street networks that include sidewalk and bike lanes. The recommendation, this item was heard by the Planning Board at their September 9th, 2021 public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition. The Planning Board did unanimously recommend approval of this request, and the site plan does meet UDO requirements. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any
Comments
questions.
or questions?
Yeah, this is just informative. Does the planning board let the school system know when they've approved subdivisions? And just as information, not to give them any.
I can't speak to current practice. I know that there used to be an approval process. They would see what was coming through the pipeline for approval. I'm not sure if they're still seeing those. We don't actually seek comment, but I believe they may get sent the request just so they know what's coming through.
Yeah, the school district used to write an impact statement for every subdivision.
And they did. It went away over the course of time. Because there really isn't any checks and balance for the planning board. There would be on a discretionary approval such as a rezoning, but for a standard subdivision, basically if it meets the requirements of the ordinance, the planning board is compelled to approve it.
But just for example, one of the things I remember in those reviews was, could you turn the bus around easily? And I just took a look at that, and I guess the only option, you're going to stop on the main road because you're not going to go down to that subdivision and turn the bus around because I didn't see.
Well, you don't have actual cul-de-sacs on that because those roads are proposed to go forward, but as they're built, they'll have T turnarounds. So you'd have to do a 3-point turn, but they won't just be dead ends. There'll be a way to turn around, but those roads will eventually continue through. If those were going to be permanent streets, permanently dead end streets, they would have to put a cul-de-sac on there where a bus could turn around more easily than what that is.
Yeah, well,
It just seems to me the school system ought to be informed that there's a development coming up in a certain neighborhood. Not that people are going to go to that school because they go anywhere they want to these days, but not that they get a vote or anything, just that they get informed that there's some sort of road coming there.
I'm not sure if Daryl's still here. I know he was back there. Okay, they do still get it. I wasn't 100% sure. I knew, speaking of what Dr. Martin was talking about, where they actually submitted comments and looked at the numbers and those, I knew that we used to do that, but we had stopped doing it, but I thought they still received the plans.
Good.
All right.
One question, Mr. Chairman. Just for informational purposes also, usually when a development is made like this, there's a way in and a way out other than just a single entrance and single exit. There's a development off of Oak Summit called Summit Square 2, I believe, with about 80 units in it to be developed. One way in only and one way out, which alarmed the neighborhood. It's right off Rural Hall Road in Oak Summit. They're still building a second part of that. And I don't know what the technical procedure is to sort of address that matter in terms of an ordinance, but it's very dangerous because on Oak Summit Road, it's already about this big. I'm just giving you a metaphor.
Well, and again,
And
it
when
could
you-
be one of those situations where it's a future stub that's planned. Similar to this, there's a stub street that will eventually connect to something else, and eventually it will have a way back out to something else. But sometimes the way the sequence of development happens, you don't have those multiple means of ingress and egress at the time of the original construction.
Well, let me give you some other information then. There was a development similar to that off of Novak Street. They built 125 homes in that development with only one way in and one way out. And the gentleman who owns the land at the very top of the development would refuse to sell that property. So right now, that development has one way in and one way out, which causes havoc in that old country annex development because of that. It's a serious problem because there's there's no infrastructure to support that number of housing, bottom line. So it is a concern that I have, and I hope that we'll sit down and talk at another time about it in more detail. But we've got to address that issue because it's a serious issue in that community.
Move on to the next item.
I'm still a little bit disturbed from a previous meeting, so pardon my pitch in my tone.
And the second case is F-1607. This is the petitioner is Robin Hood Baptist Church. This is a 4.72 acre piece of property located south of Robin Hood Road between Lindale Drive and Olivet Church Road. This is a rezoning request from IP to GBS. And this is the subject property shown on the legacy map. You'll notice that the subject property is located in the suburban neighborhoods and actually located in part of an activity center. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow. It is part of the church campus property there along Robin Hood Road, but it's proposed to be sold off and become a part of another development that the commissioners approved sometime, I believe, two years ago. This is that piece. This is the same property highlighted in yellow on the aerial photography. The GBS portion has not. They may be under construction now, but obviously it's not finished. This is the subject property is located behind this transmission tower, which is also on the Baptist Church property. This is looking at the intersection of Robin Hood Road and Meadowlark Drive. The subject property would be off to the left. And this is the area plan map. It recognizes the existing institutional use of the property is shown in blue, and it's recommended to stay institutional. But again, that was a recognition of the fact that the church owned it. It is in that neighborhood activity. It is in that activity center area, and it is adjacent to, again, property that the commissioners approved for a GBS rezoning, a combination of multifamily, office, and shopping center. And here is the site plan that's being proposed. They're really just adding 2 additional multifamily buildings onto the property, accessed via the existing development. We recommended that they go forward with the GBS zoning just to have consistent zoning for the overall project, but they aren't proposing any commercial activity as part of this request. Here are the building elevations that were submitted as part of the petition. As far as summary, it is located within the Robin Hood Village Activity Center. It is adjacent to the GBS zoning, as I mentioned, that also had 3-story multifamily apartments as a component of it. And this request is not expected to significantly affect nearby traffic operations. Again, this item was heard by the Planning Board in September. There were no speakers in opposition, and again, the Planning Board did recommend unanimously to recommend approval of this request. And the site plan does meet UDO requirements.
Questions? Okay.
Thank you, Chris. All right, item 3 is a public hearing on a proposed ordinance to rename a segment of Marydale Drive within unincorporated area of Forsyth County, and I think Matt Hamby is going to come up and review this.
Good afternoon.
No.
It's late in the day, you got to be more excited than that, Matthew.
Good afternoon.
There we go, all right.
So this is item is to rename a section of Marydale Drive to Mary Valley Lane that is in the unincorporated area of Forsyth County. This will resolve 2 disconnected street segments that have been created due to the Beltway construction. In this map, you're able to see the section that falls inside Forsyth County. This road is partially in the city of Winston-Salem and partially in Forsyth County. But you'll be voting on just a section for Forsyth County. And this map shows the second location of Marydale Drive where it connects to Old Hollow Road, the Beltway corridor as it cuts through, and then the highlighted in blue is the section to be renamed. Staff has made postings at the post office and the library. We've also posted in the Hall of Justice, and notice will be posted in the newspaper 10 days prior to the public hearing. We'll make sure to notify postmasters and Board of Transportation also. This renaming is consistent with our addressing and street naming policy and meets the General Statute 153A-239.1. And it's our recommendation that the renaming of Marydale Drive be changed to Mary Valley Lane in the unincorporated area of Forsyth County. I can answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hamby. Appreciate that. All right, agenda item 4 is a resolution recognizing October of 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We'll do that recognition at the meeting, and folks from the Family Justice Center will be there for that. Item 5, we have a little bit of history on. It's the resolution redefining the electoral districts for the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. Turn it over to Gordon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I will set this up. So you have obviously seen this presentation many times. This is my 5th time before you in this room to talk about redistricting. I will not go in excruciating detail unless you want me to. And I appreciate everyone showing up, those who could, for the Tuesday evening presentation about redistricting. And we had some good opportunity for members of the public to come out or to call in and ask us questions about that. I will address 3 issues that were raised in today's public session. The first was, why don't we put more conservative precincts into District A? In drawing up the potential redistricting, I did not consider politics at all. There was a case 2 years ago, Common Cause versus Lewis. It dealt with state districts, and it said that you could not do political gerrymandering. So we did not look at conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican. The second comment was, why don't we put this on the Forsyth County website? It's been there for over a month, so it may be on page 2, and you may have to scroll down to find it. But all these maps are available. They've been put on the Forsyth County website. They've been put on Facebook, and I don't know where else they've been, but they are available. The final was a comment which I didn't quite understand about allegedly someone saying that redistricting is being done in private, and as I said, this is my 5th public session before you, so obviously this is very public, and we have 2 more weeks to go. So that was a quick response to those comments that were raised today. I'm not going to go through all these pages here that we have, but I will scroll down, and if you want to come back to any of these, let me know. But what you have before you today is a proposal to add precinct 905 to District A. This, of course, is the first briefing, so if you, the board, want to go in a different direction, you're certainly free to do so. It's currently on schedule for first briefing today, second briefing next week, and final vote October 21st. As you remember, 905 is the precinct between Ranolda Road and Bethabara, and includes half of Wake Forest University going up to Bethabara. And if you look back at the map, you can see it fills sort of a hole that has existed for a while in District A. So it is compact, and as far as the definition of compact, you know, there's no real definition, but it's as opposed to some many-fingered district, which some people have drawn in the past. So this is a very tight district there. And again, as I've said in the past, most of 905 is in a qualified census tract, as is much of District A. So I'm certainly happy to take any questions that you have.
Questions, comments?
Chairman, I only have some comments. I wanted to just say thank you, Gordon. This has been a grueling task, but I, again, think that education is very important, and I hope that our constituency has received Civics 101, that's what I would call it. But thank you so very much for all that you have done, and others taking your time away from your families at 7 o'clock in the afternoon to come and give this information. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very good. Thank you, Gordon. So item 6 is approval of the minutes for the meeting of October 7th. Those will be obviously forthcoming after the clerk gets those together. We've got 3 budget ordinance amendments. You've got item 7, amendment to the Pandemic Response Special Revenue Fund. It appropriates $16,059,464.94 for additional emergency rental assistance program assistance. Kyle Wolf's not here. He's out at another meeting, but Christopher Ong is here, so.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Forsyth County's Department of Social Services has received that amount down to the penny, $16,059,464.94 for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program through State Session Law 2021-25. These funds are to be used to provide financial assistance and housing stability services to eligible households. Some examples of eligible expenses include payment of rent, rental arrears, utilities, and home energy costs. Utilities and other expenses related to housing incurred directly or indirectly to COVID-19. And so this action will amend the Pandemic Response Special Revenue Fund in the amount of the award received. I believe if you have any specific program-related questions, Elizabeth White may be in the house or remotely available. Other than that, that's all I have for this item.
I do.
One question.
Oh, go ahead. I know that we've received money in the past. Has all that money been spent?
I don't.
I can answer this question. So no, we have several pots of money. So we have just finished obligating the first portion that we received. This will be the second amount from the state. We anticipate getting another $12 million from the state after the $16 million, and then we still have another pot of ERAP 2 money. So we are going to be in this for a while. But between us and the city for the first pot, we have obligated almost $10 million.
Did we get I read the article in the newspaper, did we get a response from Chairman Plyler's letter specifically about being available in the courtroom?
As of the date that I responded to the article, no. Madam Clerk, have you received any response?
No, ma'am, I have not.
So we're still not in the courtroom?
We are still not inside the courtroom. We have set up a table in the lobby.
So staff has been on site the entire time, just not in the courtroom.
Let me just ask this question. Is there an advantage to being in the courtroom versus not? I guess that's the question.
Yes. So specifically, we would like to be active participants in the courtroom where the magistrates would consider whether or not rental assistance applications have been submitted by tenants or landlords. And at this point, they are not considering whether applications are in process. And specifically, for those where payment is an issue, we know that evictions occur for issues unrelated to non-payment, but we're specifically asking about rental payment issues.
Well, I don't want to belabor this, but reading the article in the paper, it sounded like Judge Romer said this wasn't my issue at all because it got changed before I was sworn in. And I'm just kind of confused and I think we ought to be getting this money out. Am I missing something here?
So we are getting the money out, but certainly it would be, most helpful to be able to be in the court with individuals that may not be aware of rental assistance where we can help them on the spot, or if their application is in process, where there would be an opportunity for potentially their case to be delayed until a disposition on their application. And so I think what she is saying is that anyone is allowed in court, but there's a difference between being allowed in court and being an active participant in court. In the day that our staff was informed that they are no longer allowed in court was the day of Judge Menifee's retirement ceremony. That is all I can say. Judge Menifee was allowed us to be active participants in the court. I cannot speak to what is happening now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Will DSS still be the one allocating these funds or controlling the dispersal of these funds, as far as you know?
So we do have a partnership with the city of Winston-Salem. We utilize a contractor by the name of Tetra Tech that assists with eligibility, as well as our DSS staff also assists with eligibility. They have been working overtime to get funds out to tenants and landlords.
All right.
Chairman,
Very
if
good.
I may make a recommendation. So before we get to the courthouse, I would ask you to consider maybe sending a letter to our sheriff's department, because they are the ones who submit the writs to the residents, and maybe providing that flyer to the residents while they're dropping off the writ. I know that he's already busy, but I think that that could help a little bit. And also getting our clerk of court involved in helping with the information as well. So those are some things to consider.
Good idea. All right.
The only thing I will mention, the clerk of court does allow our staff to go in each week to basically pull who is up for evictions. And so our staff is proactively also trying to call people to inform them about the rental program. And I do believe Liz White is on the line, and if I have said anything incorrectly, Liz, please correct me.
Okay.
All right, very good. The agenda item 8 is also a budget ordinance amendment. It's an amendment to the fiscal year 2022 budget ordinance to appropriate fund balance resulting from fiscal year 2020-2021 sales tax revenue for Winston and Forsyth County Schools. This is the true-up that we had talked about and was directed by the board some time ago, but I'll turn it over to Christopher.
Okay, thank you again. So this is sort of a twofold sales tax reconciliation. The first part of this is the Article 46 reconciliation of actual sales tax received in the prior year 21 to allocate the additional funding to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. So the prior fiscal year's adopted budget included $11,050,000 in Article 46 sales tax revenue. In fact, actual Article 46 sales tax revenue in that fiscal year came in at $17,532,292.30. So that means that the surplus amount of $6,482,289.30 needs to be appropriated and transferred to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, which would be used solely as supplemental income for the instructors. Now, in addition to that surplus for Article 46 revenue, at the December 17th, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting, you all amended the FY21 budget ordinance based on improved sales tax projections. So at this meeting, additional language was added to the budget ordinance, which directed staff to continue monitoring sales tax receipts for fiscal year 21, and if the actual sales tax receipts for the county for Article 39, Article 40, and Article 42, local option sales tax, generated more than $68,674,111. A budget ordinance amendment would be presented to the board to appropriate additional funding to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County school system amounting to 40% of the excess amount. So the non-Article 46 sales tax revenue totaled $77,033,346.73, meaning the excess of $8,359,235.73. That was the excess amount. So 40% of that is $3,343,694.29, which will be appropriated and transferred to the school system in addition to that Article 46 excess of $6 million. We'll just leave it at $6.4 million. So the total amount of both of those is $9,825,983.59, which will be, that's the amount that will appear before you for that transfer. And my tongue is getting twisted from saying all these digits, so I'm going to stop now. I think that's probably about the best I can explain it. Have any questions, I'll
And
try
the
to
main
answer.
thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't have a question for you, but I have a question for the county manager, is that one of the things we talked about getting when we got to this true-up point was to kind of verify that the dollars that the sales tax, the Article 46 dollars, were going to supplements. And we wanted to see the new supplement schedule. I wanted to see it, that at least it was reasonable that we see the new supplement schedule, particularly for this year, and then to see how it actually played out, the dollars paid and the dollars received, what kind of surplus is running with the school, because they got to be running a surplus now, and what that looks like as they've been planned, because then that's how they planned their supplement pay, and we wanted to guarantee that that was our promise, and that was. Christopher read that at the very beginning, that, that was a commitment that all of it would go for teacher supplements, and how do we audit that?
I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I was thinking. So,
Yeah, so I think that based on this, we did want to get this introduced, but based on this, I think we asked the schools to come in next week and answer that very question. So, yeah, the number, we are just now finalizing that number. Obviously, y'all haven't seen the year-end numbers. I haven't either. Terry's been working night and day on them to get them wrapped up. So, but we did want to go ahead and get this in front of you, and we will ask them to be present for those very questions next Thursday.
Great, thank you.
I have one related question, Mr. Chairman. Seemingly, we talked about reducing property sales tax by 1 cent if certain things took place. I guess that'll take place in our budget discussions going forward.
We did reduce it based on the revenue loss.
Right.
And so that revenue, it was a 3-year reduction based on the revenue loss, part of the ARPA funds that came in. And so the balance from PAYGO this year, if you remember, when we talked about the Caladium project, we knew we were going to have a budget surplus, and so we identified the Caladium project, about $12 million of that project, as what we would use the surplus for this year. And so we're still early in getting that number wrapped up, because there's a bunch of encumbrances. There's a lot of balance sheet kind of accounts that affect that, but I think we're going to hit that number, but we're not going to hit it. We're not going to go over it by a lot, but we're going to hit it. So that's the good news, is that we don't have to do any special borrowing due to the Caladium project. Anything else on that? All right. Agenda item 9 is amendment to the 2016 Schools Capital Projects Ordinance for the North Carolina Department of Transportation NCDOT Road Widening Project at Louisville Middle School. Adam Fernbach with Finance will review this.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools are requesting a transfer of $1.2 million from the Lawrence Paisley replacement project to Louisville Middle School to pay for construction of a turn lane on Louisville-Vienna Road. This is a state responsibility, and NCDOT will reimburse for it, but probably not until fiscal '23. The Lawrence Paisley project will finish with sufficient savings that the road widening can be paid with bond proceeds from that transfer without putting any other project into doubt. This item also prepares the county to receive revenue, to receive the reimbursement from NCDOT whenever that would happen. If you have any questions, I can answer some of them, and Daryl is also here.
Comments or questions?
I probably have one for Daryl. The mayor wants to know when they're gonna paint school zone or school something on the road. I assume you've heard that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've had some conversation with NCDOT to move forward with that. So that'll be happening as soon as, probably within the next 30 days.
I had one related question to Darrell, since you're here. What was the total savings on the Lawrence project? I missed that number. The savings from the project, so we could afford this.
1.2.
So it is, the Lawrence Paisley is not quite closed yet. The present balance is about $3.2 million. There's a pending invoice, or I believe the invoice is still pending, of about $2,500. So, you know, I think we're still looking at an approximately $2 million balance on that project.
But just by the way, since Daryl's here, just by the way, was not the Paisley Lawrence project actually the original budget increased?
Yeah.
And that what's left over is part of what the increase was, because that was an expensive project.
It was. So those available dollars are mainly inflationary dollars that were carried over to help the overage. And then we value engineered a little bit, came in way under a bit later on some of the end of it, says the project kind of wrapped up. So that's where the savings is coming from. Those are inflationary dollars.
Thank you.
All right, very good. We have one item related to a grant matter. It is a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the North Carolina Department of Transportation to apply for and accept, if awarded, FY22 Rural Operating Assistant Grant for the Elderly and Disabled Transportation Assistance Program, and then a couple of other grant project and program requirements. You've got the associated budget ordinance amendment, but turn it over to Christopher.
Okay, thanks again. Forsyth County received notice to apply for a ROAP, or Rural Operating Assistance Program grant, funding an amount of $273,888 for the current fiscal year 22. ROAP is a state-funded public transportation grant program administered by NCDOT that includes EdTap, the Elderly and Disabled Transportation Assistance Program, which would be allocated $184,430, and EMPL, the Employment Transportation Assistance Program, which would be allocated $89,458 out of that $273,888. EdTap funds provide assistance for the transport of elderly and disabled citizens, allowing these individuals to reside in their homes for a longer period, thereby enhancing their quality of life. Trip-based services, examples of eligible trips include trips for personal care activities, medical appointments, and trips to a pharmacy. EMPL funds are intended to help DSS clients to transition from workforce or TANF in the last 12 months, workforce development program participants, and/or the general public to travel to work, employment training, and/or other employment-related destinations. Examples of eligible trips under these funds include job interviews, job fair attendance, job readiness activities and training, transportation to a workplace, and transportation to child care for children of working parents. So again, the total of that is $273,888.
Comments, questions?
Yeah, those were normally in the original budget, and this year was a little unusual because we actually didn't receive them through that process, but they showed up later, so a little bit confusing, but anyway, we've taken care of it. Agenda item 13, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead, apologize that. We've got two items for contracts. Item 11 is a resolution authorizing a second amendment to an agreement with Avcon Incorporated to provide additional environmental assessment services. Mark Davidson's here to review this.
Good evening. All right. Mark Davidson, Airport Director. In order to proceed with Taxi Lane Lima, apron paving and lighting project at Smith Reynolds Airport, additional services need to be done, bidding services to be complete. The North Carolina Department of Transportation is requiring approval of additional environmental assessment services for the project under AvCon's existing task order. The scope of the services for Contract Amendment 2 includes restart costs for environmental assessment, additional permitting required due to previous permitting expiring, and associated engineering-related costs. Contract 2 amendment in the amount of $108,808.52 is funded 100% from the NCDOT Division of Aviation and is intended to complete all the work associated with the full NEPA environmental assessment within 9 months of the project restart. The schedule is dependent upon scoping, meeting, public involvement, and review time periods required through the process. And I just want to add that the NCDOT has reviewed the scope and found that the cost reasonable based upon the additional required work. And what I put here, I guess is not, this is the green, the ramp there that I'm talking about. It's about 350,000 square feet. And then you can see some of the other, this is so we can have a ramp to support the MRO hangars, maintenance, repair, and overall hangars, and so we can hire more people at the airport.
While we're talking about that, MRO just sent you a note about they're not bringing something here because of insufficient hangar space.
That's correct.
It would have been about 170 jobs?
About 120.
120?
Yeah.
And it was for American Airlines and their CJRs or
Canadian Regional Jet, CR 700s and 900s, subsidiary of American.
So if we build it, will they come?
That's what my understanding. MRO Holdings, as you may recall, acquired North State Aviation. I know they're interested in additional hangars, and then there's also a lot of other work. So if we build these hangars and North State's not interested, we would open up to others as well.
How many hangars? How many hangars?
So there are two 20,000 square foot hangars that we've approved previously. And what this would be, as I understand it, is a hangar down near where MRO Holding is now. Is that correct? With the extended...
Yeah, this is a $14 million project that's funded by the state 100% to build ramp and taxi lane Lima to lead to more development on the airport.
Yeah.
The hangar is separate, and that's why we went to the state, and hopefully that'll be approved in the budget for additional funding so we can start building hangars out the airport.
Now, these are not hangars, these are hangars for MRO. These are not, these are for, so a little more history here, as I understand, and Mark, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, that building that you see on your desk, the gray one next to the red and orange and yellow and all those colors, the gray one that's not highlighted, it's the 4100 building, is that correct?
Yeah, this one right here is
Yes.
4001.
That was actually built by revenue bonds that the city, I think it was the city, I'm not sure, maybe in the county, but I was told the city, provided to Piedmont Aviation to build that headquarters building back in the day. What we need now, if we're going to increase our MRO business out there, of course, we've got the school that's going to be able to create the talent, is to build another substantial hangar next to that gray one when we extend the taxiway. Am I getting close?
You're correct.
So if we can do that, and if we can find a way to fund it, MRO would bring us the business, but we just don't have the space now.
Yeah, they are doing quite well. Ever since COVID, we provided temporary relief for parking. That brought American Airlines on the field. So all 6 bays at 4001 are filled with United and American 737s.
So we're at capacity now. Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
Mark,
one question.
quick question. I actually read that attachment with the actual amendment here we're talking about for the engineering services, et cetera. It looked like the big part of this was the fact that you had two of those, you had permits expiring because nothing was done during the sort of shutdown COVID time. And then it looks like that's being recharged because work couldn't be done during that time. The permit was expiring, had to be renewed. And then there is some additional work. And I don't remember the breakdown of the cost, but it sure struck me as a little odd that with all the governmental adjustments and changes, I realize DOT's paying for it. I got that. But it just struck me as that paying additional permitting fees because we couldn't do anything during the time because of COVID
Yeah.
struck me as a little
Did not
odd.
mean to mislead you in any way, but that was not really the reason. It was more about, it was a short form environmental assessment, and due to public input,
It needed to be
it needed to be a full
deal.
NEPA,
I read
so that
piece.
changed it. Yep.
But if you read that, when you read your attachment, it talks about the permits expiring and that they had to be re-upped. I think there were two different ones, and that those were part of the cost.
Yep.
Don't know how much. I don't remember that part, but, and I can't open my thing, so I can't read it. Can't get it down.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Pardon
one
me,
question, please.
Mr. Elamine.
Make it very quick, Mark. Going forward, I had promised a young man by the name of Jim Shaw that we'd have some kind of recognition at the airport about his contributions as Ace Academy. So please keep him in mind as you build these new structures at the airport there.
Yes, sir.
Additional comments?
All right, thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Agenda item 12 is a resolution selecting and authorizing execution of an agreement with Barr Construction Company Incorporated to act as the design builder and to provide design and pre-construction services for the Blues Lake Park project. Turn it over to James Anderson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The item before you is a resolution selecting Barr Construction Company Incorporated as the design builder and authorizing execution of an agreement for pre-construction phase services for the Blues Lake Park project. Barr was selected by a request for qualifications process advertised by City County Purchasing. We received 3 responses to the RFQ. Barr Construction Company using as architect Stitch Design Shop, J.M. Thompson using as architect C Design, and Samet Corporation using as architect the Timmons Group. A selection committee comprised of general services staff, parks and recreation staff, and a representative from the manager's office interviewed the responding firms and identified Barr Construction as the best qualified firm for the project. Total fees for design and construction are not to exceed $2.2 million for the project, and staff have negotiated a not to exceed fee of $138,835 for services. This represents roughly 6% of the project budget, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Comments, questions? Okay.
Yeah, and I would add, we've designed this and prepared this around the budget that we have with dollars in hand that were PAYGO funded and so on and so forth. We are hopeful, and there is in the state budget, as I understand it, the potential for another $3 million that would be a state contribution to that project that we would come back and add to the project. So if we are lucky enough to get the state budget passed, we are hopeful that we'll be expanding that. But we're going to move forward with the money that we have to get the process started right now. But thank you, James. Thank you. All right. Agenda item 13 is a resolution authorizing execution. We've got 4 property matters, and so I think Chelsea's going to come up and rapid fire these for us real quickly. Item 13 is a resolution authorizing execution of a lease agreement between Forsyth County and Callidium for the lease of county-owned property at 400 West Haynes Mill Road. Chelsea.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This item is to authorize the execution of a lease agreement with Callidium. It's the property that we know as SciWorks. It's a 4-year term from September 1st, 2021 to August 31st, 2025. However, we have included language in there that would state that the lease would terminate 150 days after issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the new Callidium facility. And really, this lease is just to allow them to continue to operate. They would be responsible for all the utilities and maintenance and everything. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
All right. Item 14 is resolution authorizing, and we'll take 14 and 15 together because they are really the Sturmer Park property that the state has under lease. So.
Great. These 2 items are for lease agreements with the state of North Carolina. If you remember, we brought this item to you a couple months ago in the form of one agreement for both properties. We have since separated out those properties into 2 different agreements. The first property is 5580 Sturmer Park Circle, and that is for what we call the Old Youth Detention Center. It's for a 3-year lease, July 1 of this year through June 30 of 2024. And the tenant is responsible for all the utilities, janitorial services, and repairs not to exceed $25,000. The landlord, as us, would continue to do the grounds maintenance and then invoice them for reimbursement. And then the second agreement is for the old Sturmer house, and it is also for a 3-year period. However, we changed the termination on that to be 180 days notice, and that's just to allow the county to continue our evaluation of the process for county uses. And it has the same tenant responsibilities and landlord responsibilities. Happy to answer any questions if you have that.
Questions?
Very good. And item 16 is a resolution authorizing execution of the necessary documents to transfer Forsyth County's 1/2 interest in real property located at 2530 Pittsburgh Avenue to the city of Winston-Salem.
Okay, this item is to, or does relate to the transfer of property at 2530 Pittsburgh Avenue. A little bit of background on this property is in 1972, the county and city bought the property for the purpose of operating a daycare. In 1997, the county and city deeded the property to Northwest Child Development Council with the restriction that the property would be used for or to operate a not-for-profit daycare center. And it stipulated in there, if the property ceased to be used for that purpose, the property would revert back to the county and city. In 2020, during bankruptcy proceedings, it was determined that the property had not been used as a daycare center since 2014. This year, the bankruptcy judge issued a judgment to order the property revert back to joint ownership of Forsyth County and the city. So currently, we have 50% ownership in the property before you. On the left is an aerial image. It's 1.34 acres. On the right is just a picture of looking at the facility. It's a single-story property, almost 2,600 square feet. So this item before you is a resolution to authorize the execution of necessary documents to transfer Forsyth County's 1/2 interest in this property to the city. With this transfer, the city would be required to pay all the filing fees associated with the transfer, use the property in a manner consistent with any relevant master plan for the area, as well as to sell the property at fair market value and pay the county half of the proceeds if they sold it within 5 years of the transfer. So that would only apply if they sold within 5 years. I will say that the city just this week requested that we change that last requirement a little bit to read that if they sold it within 5 years, it would be at fair market value unless they sold the property to a nonprofit entity carrying out a public purpose. And we would still be owed 50% of the proceeds if there were any proceeds. We did not include that in the resolution, but if that's the board's pleasure, we can change the resolution to include that. So just to summarize, this is about transferring the county's interest to the city. Our interest is the estimated value of $102,000. And we really evaluated this and came to this recommendation just based on the facility's age. It's almost 50 years old. The location of it, because if you look back at the aerial image, it's in a very heavily residential area. As well as the current condition of the facility, we are told that it has some substantial maintenance needs to it, which would have to be remedied before the building could be used. Again, it's got some sanitation fees associated with it, and when we were doing it and making our evaluation, we did not feel that the county had a need for it at this time. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
Chelsea, go back to the map of where it is, because it might be helpful if you, go to that map. And kind of show sort of where it's not too far off Coliseum.
Sure.
And so just to put you in context of where it is, it's about a block off of Coliseum, kind of right across from the fairgrounds.
Yeah, this is a clip, so I can't really zoom in or move it, but the Coliseum is right up here at the top.
Right.
It's just cut off.
Chelsea, if I may, I believe that this property is in Mayor Pro Tem Adams' ward, correct?
I'm not sure. I did not look that up.
Okay. Yeah, if you can just check. I believe it is.
Yes, ma'am.
It's no problem. Thank you for the report.
Mm-hmm.
Do we consider just selling it to the city for outright right now, our interest in it at some value, just close it out?
I think the issue there is the condition's so poor that before you can, the condition of somebody's going to have to either tear it down, put some money in it, or do something with it. And when you go that direction with it and just say, well, let's just maybe jointly sell it outright, that would be possible. But the city very well may have some uses, not the least of which, if you notice that 26th Street actually comes in and really dead end straight to the property. If I were the city, I would seriously consider doing some road improvements there, because I mean, there's other things that the city might have interest to do to improve the neighborhood and what have you. So I think it was it's an interesting piece of property. It probably needs some governmental configuring and some planning to really make it be an asset to the neighborhood. And we just didn't feel like we were in a position to do that, in concert with the city. But obviously, if y'all got that was just our staff kind of look at it, think about it, and if you feel like there's something else and some other involvement that would maximize that, then we'll certainly go that direction.
Why can't we just put it up for sale?
Well, it's kind of like owning property with your sister. You gotta
Understand that.
Yeah.
But
so-
at this time, the sister has been a bit of a, but why couldn't we just put our half up for sale? Let's deal with what happened. Is there some restriction?
No one's really going to want to buy the property if the city's involved. Well, no, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean.
If the city owns half of it.
I just mean that you
The city
can't.
owns half of it.
You can't have full use of the property. The city would have to agree to everything. So it would probably be better off to put it under single ownership, and there are substantial repair issues with this property.
Contacting the city about just putting it up for sale. Have we done that, Chelsea?
We've been at this a long time. So
Well, could you tell me how it got in such poor condition?
Well, it's been vacant for several years. I think the water has been actually disconnected for several years. My understanding is they just did not have the funds to keep it up.
Well, it sounds like we're just giving it to them, and if they come up with a use that's whatever, then that's fine. It sounds like we're not getting anything for it, except they're paying whatever little fees they gotta pay.
Yeah.
that's right.
Well, actually, if it sells within 5 years, we would get half of the proceeds under our proposal.
What if it never sells? What if they do something with it and use it for something, we're never getting anything for it?
That's right.
And
And the city would.
As long as it's a governmental use, then the citizens are getting something for it. I mean, I guess that's where you distinguish.
Well, I guess my only thinking is that almost in everything with the city, there's a quid pro quo. We're trading this for this. And I'd probably propose we just keep it, pay our half of the fees and whatever it is, and when it gets to be time for something that we want or they want, that's a part of a deal, of swapping some property.
If you want to look at it this way, the quid pro quo could be that we don't have to invest $50,000 to fix it up.
That was really our position, is that I don't know how you.
Well, I don't know, I'm not trying to put blame anywhere, but I can't believe that we own half of a building and let it get in that kind of condition.
We didn't own it until just a little bit ago.
We just got it back in 2021. Northwest Child Development Council owned it up until it there was a judgment to revert it back to us.
Yeah, it was tangled up in a bankruptcy as well.
They just did not have the funds, is what we're told, to keep it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be clear, as Chelsea showed in her display, we gave up ownership in 1997. And so this just reverted to us because Northwest Development, as you may know, closed a lot of their child care centers and allowed the building to get into really bad shape.
Well, if it's in that bad a condition, what is the cost of demolishing it? Won't you find that out and see what that cost is? And, it seems like that, well, I'll let that go, my thought. Let's just look at that and see what the cost would be. And then if it's, I can't tell by the size what it would cost, and see if the land itself is more valuable without it than it is with it.
And I think that would be the case. but you might tie up your, I don't know,
Get an
yeah,
just estimate.
yeah,
Let's see.
I got it. We'll keep working on that, so. But we really want to just get this out in front of you for this very reason, because we knew what we do know is that the community is experiencing a blight because of this right now. And it needs to be put back into use in some way, shape, or form. And what we know about properties like this that are in bankruptcy is that's what really causes a lot of our neighborhood problems on occasion, so.
Well, maybe that's the thing to do is get it demolished, city and county owns it together, and they can sell it.
Okay.
See what it'll bring that way.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Chelsea.
I had one question, Chelsea, if I could. Northwest Child Development, do they have any assets left, or is it completely bankrupt?
They are in their process right now. I don't know if they have something still in Davie County.
My understanding is they were operating a daycare in Davie County. I don't know what their assets are, but they're out of this property. They have no obligations anymore due to bankruptcy.
Thank you.
So the rest of the agenda is pretty straightforward. We've got appointments. There's one appointment to the Partners Board of Directors that we need to make as that agency gets on its feet. You've got a number of refunds by the tax assessor and the collector there, and you've got a number of reports, and we've moved some of the refunds under $100 to reports. So that is it. The only other item I have for open session is Tim Suji, if you can come up. He's going to do a quick election schedule kind of review, and then there is one item that regarding staffing services that he is going to talk about, and I think the ask is if we can get that added to this agenda for next Thursday, that'll be great. So, Tim.
Thank you, Dudley. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to provide you all with an update of the upcoming elections, including the 2020 election cycle. So we do have a municipal election that will be taking place this Tuesday, November 2nd of this year for the municipalities of Bethania, Clemens, Cartersville, King, Louisville, Rural Hall, Tobaccoville, and Walkertown. So pretty much everybody except for Winston-Salem and High Point. And then the voter registration deadline for this election is coming up. It's tomorrow, actually, by 5 p.m. And we'll start early voting here in the Government Center from October 14th through the 30th. For municipal elections here in Forsyth County, for the past almost 4 municipal elections, we have temporarily transferred voters from one precinct to another. So essentially, we combine precincts down from 34 to 21. This allows for cost savings as well as efficiencies in administering the elections. We do notify those affected voters by mailing out a notice letter to them, as well as posting an advertisement in a newspaper that generally circulates across the county. The cost of the election is reimbursed by the cities and the towns. So that is for the upcoming municipal election. Now, going into the 2022 election cycle, I did present this the other night at the redistricting presentation. We do have a March primary, which is March 8th, 2022, followed by the general election, which will take place November 8th, 2022. The filing period for next year's elections, they will take place, I do have that schedule here, December 6th at noon through December 17th at noon. The offices that will be up for election next year will be U.S. Senate, the 2 districts in the U.S. House of Representatives, which is 6th and 10th, State Senate, the 31st and 32nd District, State House, which composes of the 71st, 72nd, 73rd, 74th, and 75th District, County Sheriff, Clerk of Superior Court, District Attorney, the at-large seat for Forsyth County Commissioners, District A, 2 seats for District A County Commission, and then 1 seat for District B County Commissioner. And then we also have the Board of Education offices, 3 seats for at-large, 2 seats for District 1, and 4 seats for District 2. And then we also have judicial contests that will be up for election next year, including 1 seat for Superior Court Judge District 21A, and then 4 seats for the 21st District for District Court Judge. Early voting, I did provide that schedule, those schedules for you, or those dates in your meeting packet. Again, the primary election will take place March 8th, and then the general election on November 8th, which both are on Tuesdays. So additionally, I also have an urgent matter, sort of a last-minute matter that requires the board's attention. I'd like to present to you a resolution. So this is in your packet that I've printed out for you. A resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement between the Forsyth County Board of Elections and the Resource Company Incorporated to provide temporary employment services for one-stop early voting and general staffing responses for elections. General Statute 163-227.2 authorizes for the conduct of one-stop early voting to be administered by the Board of Elections members or employees. The county currently has over 260,000 registered voters with 101 precincts and between 5 to 17 early voting locations, depending on the election. So as you can see, we have a unique need for temporary staffing services in order to recruit, onboard, and schedule an extensive pool of workers to handle the important responsibility of conducting elections within a limited period of time. So the Board of Elections staff recently conducted an informal procurement process to identify and evaluate the qualifications, experience, and pricing from 3 local service providers. This allowed for the Board of Elections to select in the best interest of the county and based on the overall highest composite score ranked of the following companies in descending order. So we have the Resource Incorporated with the highest score of 888 points, the Bradley Group with a score of 832, followed by Belflex Staffing Network with a score of 680. The general difference between the 3 companies is that the Resource not only supports client services for multiple government agencies, but they also are the only one out of the 3 companies to have election services experience with more than 1 county. Comparatively, the Resource has the capacity in terms of manpower, expertise, and an extensive existing pool of employees and local managerial infrastructure to adequately provide us with the necessary staffing required. So Belflex and the Bradley Group neither have the experience in election staffing, nor do they have the infrastructure that's required to support our unique staffing needs. Following the evaluation of the selection criteria from the respective companies, it is the recommendation of the Forsyth County Board of Elections that a contract be awarded to the Resource Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $680,000 effective October of this year through June 30th, 2022. This will accommodate the temporary staffing needs for the upcoming November 2nd municipal election, as well as the March 8th, 2022 primary election. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Will this guarantee the reelection of the current board members who may be involved? It's only $600,000, right? Questions or comments from Tim?
Just have one question, Tim.
Yes, sir.
The Resource Company is a local company?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, they're one of the 3 companies. They do have an office here, but their main office is outside of Forsyth County.
What were the bids from the other 2 companies?
So if you're asking about the pricing?
Yes, pricing.
That should be in your packet.
I
So
can't find, where
they'll-
is that? I'm not seeing it. I was trying to find it.
Yeah, it looks like this sheet right here. It's a chart. So the
Maybe I didn't get
difference
to the very
is
back. I thought it was gonna
32%
be in the front
markup.
part of that.
It's a difference between a
Oh, I got it.
32% markup
I got it.
versus a 38% markup.
Further questions or comments for Tim?
So you're wanting this to be on the agenda at the next, in this cycle?
We'll brief it next Thursday as part of that agenda. Yeah,
Yeah, I want to digest that a little.
Yep, so we've got time to talk about it again Thursday if you've got any questions. Okay. All right, thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, unless you have anything else for open session, I just have the closed session motion.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn? No, wait a minute, for closed session, right?
Yeah, I need to ask the board to consider a motion to go into closed session, to discuss 2 matters to consult with attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged pursuant to North
Who will
Carolina
make that
statute
motion?
143, 318, 11A3.
Ted Kaplan. I'll second the motion.
Four matters, okay. We're good.